Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Beyond Max Q. I'm Mollie Jahner, your host. I am joined today by Danielle Patterson. Very excited to have her here. You may have seen her. She is the CEO of Family Office Access, but she also has a tremendous podcast of her own that she runs. And she is just informing the industry about family offices, investing, funding, fundraising, all of the things. And also, I feel like I've learned so much from your posts just about burnout and taking a breath and being a good person. And
Oh,
so, with that, it is an honor to have you here today. Please, if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself.
thank you, Molly. It's an honor to be here. I am Danielle Patterson, as Molly said, a CEO, and now I call myself founder because I've really reimagined what was formerly this list. I've been at it for 10 years and also a mother of three. I live here in Seabrook Island, which is just outside of Charleston in South Carolina. And yeah, no, very excited and looking forward to today's conversation.
Amazing. I'm a mom of three of two, so that's a lot of extra effort. Three little boys. And so I always feel like anytime I meet another mom of three, I'm like, we're doing it. We're making it. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about Family Office Access. What is it? What are you doing? What are you building?
I acquired a company 10 years ago, and that's when I took the entrepreneurial leap. I think it's always been in me. When I go to something, I put my heart and soul, I give 110%. So I've always worked with family businesses. Right out of college, I got my dream job working for a National Geographic wildlife photographer, Franz Lontine, and he and his wife
Very
both
cool.
worked together. She was a videographer and a writer, and he would do the photography, and they would go travel, far ends of the earth. And meanwhile, back at the studio, there were several components, the licensing, the imaging, and then the gallery, which I got to manage and, sell books and fine prints and manage all of the marketing materials that went out. So I really enjoyed that as a fine art major. So that was kind of my dream job. I learned the dynamics of working with small business and family run businesses. But 2008 hit, and my husband had been growing a really successful at the time landscape design company. And with the market crash, we basically had to shelf that. And that's when we decided to take a big, brave move and head to the East Coast. I had always been, in California my whole life, where he had moved a lot. He was born in South Africa, moved to the East Coast when he was 13, and we saw it as an opportunity. And when I came out, I didn't have a job lined up, couldn't find anything that spoke to me in the world of art. So again, just this constant pivoting, reimagining yourself. My husband took everything he learned from that first business and came up with a thesis of low employee count, high revenue, and sought out and built himself a cloud hosting company, which has grown to be, a huge success. And I've really learned a lot through watching his entrepreneurial journey. Where for me at the time, I was a little less, I was more risk adverse. So I got myself a job,
No. You moved
right?
to the East Coast, you didn't have a job, like, you're just jumping in places. I don't know if you're risk averse. What's that?
Right. I thought one of us needs to be grounded, right? We make an amazing team. And so I found myself in business development. My passion is marketing and sales, anything creative. I joke I'm right-handed. No, I'm sorry, I'm left-handed, I'm right-brained, I'm dyslexic, hence my mix-up. But I've honestly, that's become my superpower. I think a little bit differently, and I think being dyslexic, I've had to work extra hard to, be brought up in a traditional schooling setting. So I I love, finding myself in organizations where that really shines. So I was working at a pediatric dentist. She was dual certified as an orthodontist, helped build her practice, pregnant with child number three. And, at that point, my husband's business was being acquired. And again, his love for the thesis of a low employee count, high revenue, he found Family Office List. I had been at this pediatric dental orthodontic office now for I think 7 years, really getting my footing in more business development. And it was a partnership. When his company got acquired, he didn't know how that would turn out, so he was hedging his bets with Family Office List. His partnership went grand. He and his partner were like brothers, long lost brothers, and it was an opportunity. I saw where my skill set could really help. Um, he saw it as a passive business, but, with that entrepreneurial fire inside of me, I thought, This isn't going to be passive. If I put my heart and soul into it, we're going to really make something more meaningful." And so that's where, I ended up acquiring it because I was basically able to structure an amazing deal with the founder, Douglas Fathers, where any additional revenue we could put towards the purchase. And I kind of joke, it was something that had been rather passive, just a little bit of heart and soul, a little bit of, fairy
Mhm.
dust for the marketing, and it was really able to transform that business. Now, Family Office List at the time, I saw the opportunity, I saw what I could do with it, but I didn't love it. It was, kind of like the sour lemon, but I thought, how can we make lemonade?
It's
How
like that
can we
room in your house that you know you need to renovate, but you're like, "I could see where it could go, but I'm not ready to paint it yet."
Exactly. I thought, okay. And it really took getting comfortable hearing negative feedback, but not taking that personally, taking it rather to heart in, I want to help my clients. I want to see them succeed. Tell me how you're using this. Tell me what isn't working so we can fix that and make it right. So it started with the integrity. If I'm going to sell a list, the data's, I mean, that's my product. The data has to be up to date. It has to be well maintained. So hired my very first employee. She is still with me today. I am so
Huge testament right there, actually.
Elisa Morris, she's amazing. I give her so much credit. Her mind, works in different ways than mine, but we jive. We're both creatives. We visualize things, but she's analytical and tedious where I'm, so we balance each other out. And we went to work and we thought, my goodness, we have made this such a better list. Why are we selling people something stale that, we're updating on a daily basis? So meanwhile, we're growing in revenue. So we thought, let's use this to, continue investing in the company. And we decided we needed a better delivery mechanism because as we started to bring more researchers on, there needed to be organization. We needed timestamps on the data. So we launched a platform and it was slow going, self-funding. We had to work with who we could trust because the data was our product at the time. But it was an awesome journey. And, we've now since redeveloped, we've worked with 3 different development teams. Each one, learned new things. The employees we've brought in and out, I've learned so many lessons, but really proud of finally this year having something after these years of building and listening to client feedback and um, continuing to just reinvent what it was that Family Office List was the time. Finally rebranded Family Office Access. So now I feel like I can call myself a founder. It's a whole new company, and it's been a journey. Just as a woman who at the beginning struggled from imposter syndrome. Like I didn't come from the world of finance. I don't have a family office. I didn't know much about them when I started, but I've worked hard and I've learned not only to help those looking to connect with family offices, but I've really worked to also think about the family office mindset and how do we serve them both because it's
Yeah.
really about bridging that gap.
Yeah, well said. I mean, who doesn't struggle with imposter syndrome? But I do think that women disproportionately suffer from it more than men, especially working moms, because you're always questioning, am I doing enough at home? Am I doing enough in the office? Am I doing enough? It's always the question. And so
Always.
you're doing fantastically for what it's worth. I am honored to have you here. And I think what you've built is tremendous. I love the rebrand too, because it's not something static. It's not a list. It is access and it's ever changing. And so I love that. Can you talk a little bit about, I would love to hear how to connect with family offices, but then I would love to hear their mindset because I think that's actually important to connect with them, right? Understanding what their mindset is.
Yes. All right. So the list encouraged this one size fits all, spray and pray,
Yep.
where the world of family offices no two are alike. It's just like any common family. We all have our dynamics, we have our goals, our values. These families just happen to be extremely wealthy and entrepreneurial, depending on the generation of the family office formation. And all that plays into it. Where is this family office in their wealth creation? Are they current business operators, or are they recently exited founders? Or did they inherit their wealth from many generations back? And understanding where they are in that complex process, because when you look statistically right now, I compare often a family office to a startup. There are so many challenges in successfully running and structuring and the governance. The statistics show that, after the first generation, 25% of family offices fail, and by the time you get to the fourth generation, only 5% of family offices that were created actually are still here. So I try to share those stories with people so that they really understand that mindset and can think about long-term value creation. And so for those looking to connect, whether they're raising capital, whether they have services, it's really put yourself in their shoes. What is their family legacy? And for most of our clients raising capital, how are they looking to structure their deals? What are they investing in? What
Mhm.
stage? So that you're not wasting your time, but you're also being very respectful and
Yes.
hyper personalized to where that value creation and where that true partnership exists.
Mhm. Well, and a lot of people say that family offices, as they're investing, their investment strategy is very conservative. Do you agree with that?
Again, once you've seen one family office, you've seen one, and not in all cases. I do think, broadly speaking, yes, because they don't necessarily have these institutional mandates. They don't
Mhm.
have these they don't have to look at the market cycle so much as they think about long-term generational, investment strategies, and so for those reasons, I do think they tend to be more conservative. Yet, again, if the founder is someone who's really entrepreneurial, maybe they had a recent tech exit, for example, they may have a
True.
completely different thesis. Also, as we see more and more family offices professionalize and start to really think about attracting talent and hiring, chief investment officers and analysts, they're able to take much more calculated risks. And I do see the positive influence of technology and AI really being able to help support these families in those functionings where, historically it may have been the original wealth creator, his trusted advisor, and maybe he wanted to teach his son-in-law about investing, but he didn't go to school for that? So it's very, very different across the board. I see it moving in a direction where there's much more direct investing and more early stage venture, but it's not to say it's for every family office. You need the right team, the right diligence, and for that reason, a lot of collaboration. I
Mhm.
see many families rely on each other. If that's their wheelhouse of expertise, they'll, bring them in as co-investors and rely on them to do the diligence and
Mhm.
look to them to vet the founders. And so that's one of the many benefits of a family office investor. It often opens doors to, the whole crew of which they deals with.
I mean, this is almost like turning into family office myths, so I'm just this is good to have you here, because it's good because like, a lot of founders have these questions. They seem to be elusive, or
Yes.
they seem to hide.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
I love that you asked the question because, again, it goes back to the mindset. The families do have lots of concerns. We look at the data, for example, and assets under management. It's the hardest metric to acquire from a single family office. Why? Well, they don't want to broadcast, here's how much money I have, because with that, comes security risks. Privacy can be really important for a variety of reasons to these families. But what I'm seeing when it comes to those that have strong family values, leadership in certain areas of impact or a drive for, very specific investments, we're seeing an increase in brand building now, like I've never seen before. That's another way that we track the data, which ones didn't have websites that now do, which have social presences. And I see it shifting, but again, not completely across the board. There, I completely understand why many prefer to operate, under the radar. And with our data, our goal is to create connectivity, collaboration, and so we always say it's not our goal to have every family office in existence. Our goal is to help subscribers connect in a meaningful way. And so we curate the list. We have about 5,200 globally, where they estimate there's probably 15,000 worldwide. So again, we figure let's not bother those that you won't have success, right? Because we do want it to work for both ends. So yeah, I think it's a real consideration.
Yeah.
But again, you can we talk about, how to connect as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And we use the give ask framework for those of the family offices that are building brands, the easiest way you can give to them is to support, follow them if they're posting content, and you can contribute in a meaningful way if you have meaningful relationships or content, white papers, things that contribute to the areas you see they're very passionate about. That's the easiest way. It's building a relationship based on the value you can offer versus just this transactional cold pitch.
Right. Well, they're people. I think
Yeah.
that's important to remember. Like, they're people. I mean, I personally, I'm by no means family office level.
Yes.
Let's be
Yes.
clear. But I am a very private person, and I don't know that I would want just random strangers knowing all the intimate details of my finances. And when you think about that, or how I'm spending my money, because that always invites judgment. And I
Yes.
feel like that's one of those things where it's like, think about it as a person. Like, would you want that?
Absolutely.
How would you
Absolutely.
want someone to connect with you?
Yes. And I often use that as well, that behind these family offices are families, they're people. And so often, we think so institutionally, my goal is to raise capital, and you're, pointing right for the checkbook, where you need to be speaking to the heart and really that connection and that trust. Trust
Yes.
is the foundation.
I love that. Well said. Well, I'm going to flip to founders now.
Yeah.
So you are a founder. I would
Yeah.
love for you, and you see, and you talk to founders all day long. I would love for you to talk about what you think makes a successful founder in the fundraising journey.
Mm. All right. I think founders sometimes will misestimate how long it does take to create those relationships and to align with the right source of capital. Not all capital is created equally. You can think about it short term. I just need this check to get me through this next quarter. Or you can think about it from who's going to bring capital beyond the money, who's going to bring connections. um some of these families will sit on boards, they'll be active operators. So really thinking about what it is you want in a partner beyond the capital, and then starting early, start when you don't need the capital, start building your network. One of the things that I love to do is, I attend lots of different events and conferences, and yes, we host some ourselves, virtually. But when I go to these conferences, of course, I'm there to learn, I'm there to network. But I often say, how can I help out? I pitch in, I help check people in, and it's that showing up and how can I contribute and be a part of what others are building, others who are serving the families or the families themselves. And so um, starting with those things as early as you can, I think the power of our networks. And it can be hard. You mentioned your private, Molly, and that's I'm more introverted than people realize as well. So it really takes, okay, pushing myself to the limit. So my encouragement to founders is start early, start building a network, join communities. I think in the early years, I'm very thankful for Elisa, who was with me from the beginning, but it's a lonely journey when you're a solopreneur, and surrounding yourself with people whose skill sets complement yours, but finding those communities as well where you can voice the difficulty. There's
I
going to
love that.
be cycles, highs and lows. I think of it as seasons all the time. I think about nature, and it
Yes.
grounds me and reminds me, so too this season will pass.
Yes, well, and that's such a good point, and finding your people, and I know that with like the remote work and there's more things happening online, those can turn into real relationships too. I can't tell you how many people I've met online that I've like now we're kind of friends. I love this. We don't go get coffee, all the time, but we can have virtual
Yes.
coffee, and I love
Yeah.
that. I think your point about desperation kills deals. I wrote about that the other day, and I think that that's so true. People can just they can feel it if you're desperate. And so to your point of do it way in advance. Start
Yeah.
making relationships early. That's so important.
Yeah.
It's a good
And build the momentum around what you're doing. If you're passionate and you believe in this, you'll be the magnet, but you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to connect with the like audience that can help connect you in those meaningful ways and yeah.
but well, and your sales and marketing background
Yeah.
and art and nature, but sales and marketing, right? You're dynamic but introverted. Can you talk a little bit about what that's looked like for you? How to push through that if you're not naturally inclined towards that?
My goodness. You've just got to push yourself, and I think for me, the silver lining, of COVID was everyone had to start going virtual, and it pushed me to do these live demos, and, I'm passionate. When I start talking about what I've built and when share it, people are like, "Oh my goodness," and I love doing demos. I love talking to people, hearing what their
Mhm,
obstacles are, and then sharing what we've built to, address those. But
mhm.
it's also great to hear from people. It's like, we didn't think about that. We don't have that yet. And so you don't get those opportunities by just, sitting in your bubble. You've got to push yourself and baby steps,
Yes.
setting your mind. I'm a big list writer. I feel like it helps me
Same.
manifest. So, like, my other screen, I have my little sticky notes
Oh,
of,
I
like,
love it.
what is it this, year, this month, this quarter that I really wanna set out that's it makes me uncomfortable, but that discomfort, it's a sign of growth, right? And learning to appreciate the discomfort.
Yes, well said. I love that. I have so many notebooks, and I have to remember, like, which notebook is for what. If I don't write it, I feel like it's not real. I
I love
know. I need to use Gemini and all the things, but, like, okay, but I have to write it.
look at me. I'm an old-fashioned note taker.
Oh, you have a clipboard. Oh my gosh, that's intense. I haven't seen that in a while. That's awesome. I love it.
Oh, I'll show up with the clipboard. I'm old school.
I feel like I need one. I wanna talk about resources. So you guys are a resource. You provide that. You this is your subscription, your access. What other resources are out there that you feel like founders or family offices could take advantage of to invest well?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll start with resources in the family office space. I had to teach myself a lot of what we did. The original founder, Douglas, is a busy man. He runs many financial service companies. So I had to find what I could, what was available, where could I learn at that moment. And so, finding content nowadays is so much easier. There's so much out there. The term family office has become more commonly used. There's a lot of tremendous, whether they're conferences, online resources. I love and Simple. In the early days, it's founded by Francis Botha. He was an amazing Forbes writer, contributor. So I would always, just wait for his latest and greatest article about family offices. And that led me to discover the work of Ron Diamond, who's, Mr. Family Office
Yes.
World. And he's a mentor of mine. He's incredibly generous. One of his passions is education. And so, I love and admire the way he's created his podcast and
Mhm.
early learning opportunities for me. And so I set out to do the same. Want these events, these opportunities to be free. I want them to be inclusive. I want to elevate voices from different areas, not just those who help people connect with families, but
Right.
those that serve families and the families. It's all about understanding the full ecosystem because I
Mhm.
don't believe anything's, insular. And so I love the we do the Lunch and Learn series, which is elevating voices of those who serve families. And then we do the master class, which has really evolved this year into sharing stories of families. Um, but and Simple is one, Ron Diamond's podcast, and then conference groups. I'm a big fan of DC Finance and what he's building. I like going to his conferences. Um, Digital Evolution Institute. There's a handful. We now manage an events calendar so we can help guide people because no two are alike. There's different sector focus, there's different
Yes.
size, different price tag. Unfortunately, is can
Yes.
be a pay to play game, but we like to help people navigate that world.
Yeah, I love that. That's really great. The events too is so important because how do you know what's worth the investment? Because going to them can be an investment, not just time, but also quite a bit monetarily. So it's like I want to maximize my time. So that's very cool. You're doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's important. I would love to hear what's in store for you. You talked about manifesting. What's in store for you guys this next year?
Yes. Well, as I mentioned, we've worked with 3 different development teams. The most recent we're really excited about. They specialize in AI, and so we have all these amazing filters that you can use to drill down to really align with the perfect family. But you can now bypass the filters and just use our AI tool, and it can return the best recommendations. And so we're launching that literally, everything takes a little bit longer. We're in the testing, but in the next few weeks, we'll be launching, we call it version 3. And immediately following that, it's creating more visibility in the community we've built because we teach, leverage your network. And we've built an amazing network and we want to elevate all of our subscribers and give them more visibility. So creating that resource within the platform, also highlighting others serving the community so that there is not just a resource of here are the family offices, but here's the flip end, a resource of all those that families can connect to as well. So that's the
Very
the
cool.
next chapter. Mhm.
That's exciting. Well, and we always keep these short, and I feel like I could interview forever. So the audience is going to be disappointed. But I do want to ask: is there anything we haven't covered today you feel like you'd love to share about anything? It doesn't have to be about family offices.
Um, I think just staying curious, giving yourself grace, and my favorite quote is, "Gratitude turns what we have into enough." I think any day I get defeated or I just feel hopeless or whatever, I just tell myself that quote, and it turns the world in the right direction.
Well, and I always end with, "What are you currently reading?" Because I'm always
Oh,
interested.
I love this. This kind of shows what a mess my desk is, but so our most recent it's funny, it's here because we just did our lunch and learn, but David Homan,
Okay.
he is a mentor of mine. He's built Orchestrated Connecting, and I got to meet his co-author, Noah Askin, who's a professor. But it's all about building intentional communities and how to really build those based on trust. And so that, and then my pile of things that I'm getting ready will be interviewing Paul Hutchison, who's a huge advocate for anti-human trafficking. He co-produced
Yes.
Sound Freedom. So this
That was a really
not
hard
this
movie
month,
for me to
next
watch.
month, we'll be interviewing him and his son Jordan. So I've got to get reading.
I need to watch that. It was a hard movie for me to watch for sure, especially with little kids. I was just this is too
Uh,
tough for me. It was a tough one. I had to, like, gear up to watch it.
yeah. And hearing him even speak about it, we went to an event in Miami and, he tears up just speaking
Yes.
about it. And so the whole room is like, "Oh."
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I admire his leadership
It's
and doing
needed.
the difficult things to
Yes.
shed light on the terrible
All of that.
situation.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to watch your interview. I'm excited. I'll look forward to that.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and
Yes.
I have more and more that are just
Oh, I
piling up.
love it. You have a giant pile. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, audiobooks, that's, as a mother of 3, I'm in the
Yeah.
car a lot, and so, recent subscriber of ours, PJ Denuzzo, he's, like, a coach, uh, I'm listening to his, How to Manifest Anything You Want, and it's really great, so that's what I'm listening to.
I love it. That's perfect. Well, that's amazing. I am so thankful that you took the time to come on. I want to just call out that out because I think there's so many people who have, X followers and huge platforms, and to make time for some of the small guys is, I think, really shows character and integrity and kindness. And I just want to thank you for that. So I want to call that out because that's important.
Yes.
And I will link all the things in the video description. And if you want to connect with Danielle, follow her LinkedIn. She's got all kinds of amazing updates. I know I'm encouraged by it. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Molly.